She was the leader everyone wanted. Not the loudest in the room, not the one with the biggest title. She was the one people actually went to, the one who remembered your name, your kid's name. What was keeping you up at night? She was patient when the team was panicking. She was steady when the organization was spinning. She absorbed stress the way a sponge absorbs water. And she did it so consistently, so quietly, that nobody around her thought to ask how full the sponge was getting. By the time she called me, she could not finish a sentence without apologizing for taking up space. She was the most caring leader I had worked with in years, and she was completely empty. What happened to her is not a character flaw. It's not a failure or of resilience. It's a nervous system phenomenon that has a name: compassion fatigue. And in the AI era, it's hitting the best leaders fastest. I'm Sahar Andrade. I'm a neuroleadership coach and the host of AI Cafe Conversations podcast. And today I want to talk to you about something the leadership industry is almost completely silent on. We celebrate empathy. We train it. We put it in our leadership competency frameworks. We promote people because of it. And then we watch the most empathetic leaders burn out faster than anyone else, and we call it a mystery. It's not a mystery, it's biology. And it's being made dramatically worse by AI. Stay with me, because this one matters. What is actually happening in the nervous system? So let me start with this. This is something my medical training taught me that most leadership coaches were never taught. The human nervous system does not distinguish between your stress and the stress of the people around you. Not fully, not automatically. We have what neuroscientists call mirror neurons. These are cells in the brain that fire when you observe someone else experiencing something. When your team member is anxious, a part of your brain is experiencing something close to anxiety. When your direct report is in threat mode, your nervous system picks up that signal. For most leaders, this is happening below the level of conscious awareness. You walk into a room and you feel the tension before anyone says a word. You get off a call and you feel heavier than when you got on it. You spend 40 minutes helping a team member through a crisis and you feel like you ran a race. That is not metaphor. That is physiological response. Now, for a leader with average empathy, this signal is present, but manageable. They pick it up, they process it, and then it fades. For a leader with high empathy, the signal is louder, more persistent, harder to discharge. The nervous system doesn't just pick it up, it holds it dear. And here is where compassion fatigue begins. Compassion fatigue is not caring too much. That framing is wrong. And it's actually harmful because it makes leaders feel like their empathy is the problem. And it's not. Compassion fatigue is what happens when a nervous system that is absorbing other people's stress does not have enough recovery time to discharge the stress before the next wave comes in. The sponge gets full. And a full sponge cannot absorb anything new. The leader who used to be steady starts snapping. The one who always had time for people starts avoiding her calendar. The one who remembered everyone's kids' names starts feeling nothing when someone shares good news. Not because she stopped caring, because her nervous system has nothing left to give. This is the crisis, and it has always existed for empathetic leaders. But AI just made it dramatically worse. And here is how. We saw also compassion fatigue. Actually, the first time that expression raised to the surface is right after COVID, when leaders were already struggling with whatever was going on with them, with their family, with their environment, with the whole wide world. But they had compassion and they had empathy for their teams, and they were absorbing all the struggle and frustration and ache and pain that their teams were going through. And now AI is acting as the same kind of accelerator or extra factor on compassion fatigue that COVID did to us. I'm not saying that AI is COVID or is a virus or any of that. No. I'm just explaining, kind of putting an analogy to it so we can understand the weight of each of these factors and how they affect our empathy and compassion as leaders. So AI made it dramatically worse, and here is how. So what AI is doing to the recovery window? Before AI and before COVID, the empathetic leader had natural recovery windows. The commute, the gap between meetings, the moment of walking from one building to another, the lunch you actually took. These were not luxuries. They were neurologically discharge windows. Moments where the nervous system could process what it just absorbed and return to a baseline. COVID eliminated that because you were just at home in front of a screen, talking to people through a screen 24/7, isolated just by yourself. So you didn't have these breaks. Now, AI, in another way, is doing it. AI is eliminating the discharge windows, the moments where your nervous system could process what it absorbed and return to a baseline. Not intentionally, not maliciously, but when communication is instant and constant, when your team can reach you at any moment on any device, when AI tools mean there is always more that could be done right now, these gaps disappears. These discharge windows disappear. These spaces that you can discharge or relax disappear. I'm sure you felt that. So I want you to go back into a moment like that, supercharge, close your eyes, and try to feel what your body is responding to. Which part of your body is responding to that? We just need to be honest with ourselves, because knowing the issue is 50% of the solution. A director that I worked with last year described it this way. She said before the AI rollout, she had her commute, 40 minutes each way. She used it to decompress from the morning before the afternoon hit. By the way, my long drives are the same for me. This is where I decompress. I always have my favorite music and I rock to it all the way. And this way I decompress. So hopefully you feel the same. So the director that had the commute for 40 minutes, she used it to decompress from the morning before the afternoon hit. After the rollout, the AI rollout, her company moved to hybrid. The commute went away. The Slack messages started coming at 7 a.m. The AI generated reports landed in her inbox before she had finished her coffee. By 9 a.m., she was already carrying the weight of 12 different people's anxieties, and she had not even opened her first meeting. That is not a productivity story. That is a nervous system story. Here is what the data is telling us right now. The Deloitte 2026 Human Capital Trends report found that 60% of organizations are now using AI in decision making. But only 5% have any structured process for managing the human capacity cost of that integration. What does that mean? That means that 95% of organizations are running their people harder with AI tools and have no framework of what that costs the human running those tools. For the average employee, the cost is cognitive overload. I feel that sometimes. For the empathetic leader, the cost is something deeper because she's not just processing her own cognitive load, she's processing everyone else's. And the AI rollout has made her team more anxious, not less. Here is something I hear constantly from leaders right now. My team is more stressed since we implemented AI. They come to me more. They need more reassurance. They are more uncertain about the roles, their values. The worst of it, they're worried about their jobs and their future in the organization. The empathetic leader absorbs all of it because that is what she does. That is why she was promoted. That's who she is. And the sponge keeps filling. The cost is not just personal, it's organizational. When a highly empathetic leader hits compassion fatigue, the team loses the one person who was holding them together. The leader who was the source of psychological safety for the whole team goes offline. Not dramatically, quietly. She is still there. She's still showing up. But the thing that made her extraordinary, her ability to genuinely receive others' experience, is gone. And the team feels it before she does. So what actually helps and what makes it worse? Let me tell you what does not work first, because most of the advice out there for compassion fatigue is wrong for this specific problem. Setting harder boundaries is not the answer. And they always say, put a boundary, do this, close your door, have blah, blah, blah. It doesn't work. We are treating symptoms, we are not treating the root. And once we treat the symptoms, they will always keep coming back with a vengeance. Unless we go to the root, we cannot solve an issue. I know that sounds counterintuitive. Every article about compassion and fatigue tells you to set better boundaries. I'm sure you heard it. Stop giving so much. Learn to say no. Protect your energy. While all of these are good, I'm not saying they're not or they are contradictory to what we need to do. They are good. principles, but not a solution. And for a leader in compassion fatigue, this advice lands as: become less of who you are, care less, be less available. And it creates a secondary crisis because her empathy is not a behavior she can switch off. It's how her nervous system is built. Telling her to feel less is like telling someone with sharp eyesight to stop seeing so clearly. It doesn't work. And the attempt creates shame on top of depletion. The real answer is nervous system recovery, not behavior change, not boundary scripts, psychological discharge, and physiological discharge. Here is what it actually looks like. First, the discharge window has to be rebuilt deliberately and intentionally. If AI and hybrid work eliminated your natural recovery gaps, you have to engineer them back in. This is not self-care, woo-hoo well-being in the spa weekend sense. This is a neurological maintenance protocol. 10 minutes between a heavy emotional conversation and your next meeting is not a luxury. It's the difference between a sponge that can keep absorbing and one that can't. The director I mentioned earlier started what she called a decompression protocol. Before any meeting she knew she would be holding space for someone else's stress, she took 10 minutes alone. No phone, no screens, slow breathing, not as a relaxation practice, as a deliberate nervous system reset. So she walked into the next conversation with capacity instead of residue. With 3 weeks, her team noticed a difference. Not because she had changed what she did, because she had changed her baseline before she did it. Second, the leader needs to distinguish between absorbing and receiving. Absorbing is taking the other person's stress into your own nervous system and holding it there. Receiving is being genuinely present with someone else's experience without taking it on as your own. This is a skill and it's learnable, but it requires a regulated nervous system to do it. You cannot receive from a place of depletion. You can only absorb. And absorption without discharge is how you get to compassion fatigue. Third, the AI tools need to be restructured around human recovery, not just human output. This is the organizational piece. If your AI rollout has eliminated the natural recovery rhythms of your most empathetic leaders, the rollout has a design flaw, not a technology flaw, a human system design flaw. Communication windows need to close. Asynchronous does not mean available all the time. The expectation of instant response is a recovery killer. And for empathetic leaders, it's a compassion fatigue accelerator. This is the work I do with organizations through my proprietary BRAIN framework, BRAIN. 5 evidence-based principles that create the neurological conditions for leaders to stay regulated, stay present, and stay genuinely available without burning out, not by caring less, by recovering faster. Because the goal is never to make empathetic leaders less empathetic. The goal is to give them a nervous system that can sustain the gift they already have. Let me leave you with this. If you are the leader people come to, if you are the one who holds things together, if you are the person who has always found a way to stay steady for everyone else, you are not burning out because you're weak. You're burning out because you are extraordinary. and you have been running on extraordinary without a recovery protocol. This is fixable, but it requires treating the nervous system, not the behavior. Not sure where you stand right now? Not sure if you are carrying is decision fatigue, compassion fatigue, or something that has been building longer than you have been willing to name? Book a leadership clarity call, 30 minutes. No pitch, just clarity. The link is in the show notes. If this episode landed, share it with the most empathetic leader you know. They need to hear it. I'm Sahar Andrade. This is AI Cafe Conversation podcast, the only podcast that intersects between AI, neuroscience, and leadership. Before we go, I always tell you, show me some love. Subscribe, share, rate, or comment on our podcast. That can help us reach more people. We really appreciate your support to make us one between the 2% top global podcast. I will see you on Friday for the Forbes article like short episode. And just a word, it's about generations. So I will see you on Friday till we meet again. Peace out. 1,